live discussion video about something I've been noodling around with for at least several months, something I've been wanting to do for a hot minute. Considering that my header or profile on my various channels, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, and so on, and even my new Patreon, have like a profile of Spider-Man. And I mentioned many times, especially during my walkthroughs of Marvel Spider-Man on PS4 and Miles Morales, Spider-Man is my all-time favorite hero. It's been that way since I was a little kid when I watched the 90s Spider-Man TV show. And then my first comic was a Spider-Man comic. That's what really, I mean, it's pretty much, I watched it simultaneously as like the first Superman movie, but like I was really hooked on Spider-Man, Peter Parker, and all of his adventures. I grew to love like comedic superheroes, Kim and Deadpool, especially. Just like add that humor, and I pretty much kind of like grew accustomed to doing the exact same thing growing up because I absorbed all that like a sponge as a kid, just making awkward jokes in like certain situations, much to people's annoyance. But the reason I love Spider-Man so much because aside from the jokes, was more often than not it does make me laugh, and it's thanks to a lot of great comic book writers to punch up his jokes a bit, or even like not even just in comics, but in like films or even TV shows. But it's just that Spider-Man is that if I'm pretty sure everybody's familiar with the origin of Spider-Man, about great power comes great responsibility. With the whole Uncle Ben tragedy that he went through, and how he, grew out of that tragedy into like a hero in his own right. And I live by that ethos, at least to what I can. Spider-Man, of course, like kind of every once in a while, it kind of takes that responsibility a little bit too far. By like like in one comic back in like just like a way back mid 2000s, like during like a prison breakout in a particular comic, and I'm pretty sure it was Luke Cage who mentions, because most of the prison breakout was mostly Spider-Man related villains, and he sitting there blaming himself, and then I'm pretty sure it was Luke Cage who said like Spider-Man will blame himself if the sky was falling down kind of situation. I might be butchering that, but it's pretty much that kind of like mindset that he's pretty much like take on too much responsibility, even something that's not even related to him, and because there's no way he could possibly know or even expect this, but that kind of thing. But I try to do what whatever like my particular job is, or what like certain things I might say or do, or I try to make sure that I'm careful to some extent to what I do. Is like if I'm in charge of something, like I have the power over, like if I'm a parent, or if I'm running like a particular or even like this channel, I'd be careful and mindful of certain things I say or do, because that might affect whoever might be watching. And or at least sometimes when I'm hanging with my close friends, I can probably say whatever because they know me well enough, but even if I do cross a certain line, they'll check me, kind of situation. But that and then I also love Spider-Man's like like optimism. It's like he tried to do good despite of himself, and I try to maintain that same like mindset. Is that I try to make sure like I don't do it as often like I should, but if I'm mindful and the opportunity presents itself and I'm mindful of the situation, I tried to go out my way for somebody else just to do like my part in the Batman, because it's like in the Batman of others, because I remember like I'm pretty sure it was in this a Spider-Man PS4 game when it was like Aunt May passing on this lesson to Peter that if you help one person, you help probably 1,000 more, something like that. It's just like that domino effect, because you may not know the next person, because as long as you help like this person, they might pay it forward, that kind of thing. You pay it forward, they'll pay it forward, and it just spirals. And and it's not something that you should expect to happen all the time, or even expect to get something in return. You just do it because it's right. And that's the kind of thing I like. And that's what I learned from a lot of superheroes like Batman or Superman or Captain America or whomever. It's like you do it because it's the right thing to do. And I keep that mindset as much as I can. Like I love, that's why I gravitate to any like Spider-Man TV show that comes up where it's like sucks or is excellent. I try to check it out anyway, because more often than not it's something I can get from that. I especially love like the Spectacular Spider-Man. It's probably like right below the 90s TV show for me as far as great Spider-Man TV shows. It's just because like I said, like Spider-Man tries, and it's like and it's like I remember certain comics when it's like when he's like at his lowest point, or when he's getting beaten down, he goes out his way to make sure that others are not hurt, and he'll take on the brunt of it, of whatever it is, like the damage or the whatever comes his way. Like in Spider-Man Homecoming, Tom Holland, when like this scene where like not Jefferson Davis, but like his brother Miles' uncle Aaron, played by I'm blanking on his name that fast, Childish Gambino guy, when like the Vulture's crew starting to sell him weapons, and then Spider-Man phone rings or he make a noise, and they think the uncle is probably like bringing the cops down on him or something like that. And then Spider-Man jumps out like, hey, if you go hey, don't worry, like if he's gonna shoot anybody, aim it at me. It's like, that's Spider-Man. It's like, I love that. He like it's like he I love it when like when certain people get Spider-Man like that, actually exactly what you expect Spider-Man to do. It just usually depends on the version, but more specifically we're talking about the 616 main main continuity Spider-Man. And like even like doing like despite how you feel about like the Andrew Garfield films or the Tobey Maguire films, which I still think they're all great. Well, the Amazing Spider-Man 2 not so much, but it's still some stuff that I still enjoy from it, mostly because anybody who played Spider-Man, either like live action or voice acting, I still love them. And it's like, it'll be a dream come true just to meet like Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, and Tobey Maguire, because like I it's like they're like awesome. It's like I do not hate anybody who played Spider-Man before. Like they all did it their own way, but I still love it. Like Neil Patrick Harris did like the voice of like the MTV Spider-Man TV show, which is underrated TV show, and I do highly recommend you guys try to check that out. I'm pretty sure you can find it somewhere, but probably like bootleg it somehow on the internet. Not that I'm condoning it, but I'm pretty sure like it's very hard for me to find that thing. Maybe it's on Amazon Prime. I'll check it out. But that is an underrated show. Highly recommend that. Neil Patrick Harris did the voice of Spider-Man at least a few times. Once in like the Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, which is a video game I did a walkthrough of on my YouTube channel, so you can check that out for yourselves. One of my favorite video games of all time, which is I put on the list of my favorite video games, which is also a particular video on my YouTube channel. So on Talkative Carl, so check that out on YouTube when you get the chance. But I'll be thrilled to meet any one of those guys, because they're fantastic. And it's just that childhood hero. Everybody got their own childhood hero. Spider-Man's one of mine. I'm pretty sure a lot of people share that same sentiment. It's just that Tobey Maguire, he's the very first live action Spider-Man that we got, and the first two movies was phenomenal. There's certain parts of 3 I kind of like, because it's kind of like Batman and Robin. It's like it's just fun to watch. It's campy. It's all right. Not the critically acclaimed like Spider-Man 2 was, but it's still certain stuff in it that you enjoyed. I love Tobey Maguire's I think everybody knows that, like, for the most part Tobey Maguire did a great Peter Parker because he fit like the look, but Spider-Man is average, but I still enjoyed it. But then Andrew Garfield, like this little flip-flop is Peter Parker looks too handsome. Is not that nerdy looking where you expect Peter Parker to be. Kind of looks like what Peter Parker will probably look like when he's in like college, like in the 90s Spider-Man show. But his Spider-Man is great because he's more jokey, and like like certain scenes when, like, one particular one when he's like stopping like a carjacker, and he's sitting, because like the utilizing of his Spider-Man abilities is probably like even better than in certain Tobey Maguire scenes. Is a little bit better, but when he's in the back of the in the back seat while this carjacker trying to jack the car, and then it's like he turns around and it's like, see Spider-Man, it's like are you a cop? It's like, really? You see this costume, you think I'm a cop? It's like you messing with this dude the whole time, and while it's like, as soon as he turns his head, and it's like he's gone because he's that Spider-Man speed, and it's like you just messing with him. It's just like Spider-Man. I love when it's like when he throws, I like when he throws his villains off. That's his whole thing. His part of his mindset is kind of like a strategy in a way, where it's like he makes stupid jokes to throw off his bad guys, because he's young. Usually when like you see certain these shows or movies, he's depicted as being young and a bit naive, and it's like this is a stressful situation he's usually in. He's dealing with, like, either goons with guns, or worse, actual super villains with certain powers or certain gadgets that can literally kill him, given a chance. He diffuses the situation and throw them off by cracking stupid jokes and one-liners, and it's just like, and it helps him power through these kind of like very hazardous situations, and it's enticed me to read or watch more of this, because it's just, if he's calm, we're not scared of what might happen to him. At least it's my take on it. Like, he puts us at ease, because a lot of viewers is probably young, and like we ignore the dangerous scenario because like it makes us feel like he's in control of the whole entire situation. And I love the fact that he's smart, and like it's great to see, like, which a lot of people complain about, like the Tom Holland version, because he, in like when he's first introduced in Civil War, Tom Holland shows off certain gadgets and so that he made up himself. But later on, people crack jokes calling him, like, you know, you know, Iron Man Jr. or something like that, because most of his guys he's got from Iron Man, and it's like, you know, it's great to see that he utilizes his own brain, because there's, you know, still stuff that we see him do in a lot of scenes in Homecoming and Far From Home that, you know, he does make stuff himself. But great storytellers don't forget. It's kind of like a lot of people complain about the TV show Flash on the CW, that eventually writers of that show forget that, you know, he's not only a CSI, but he's a genius. He could come up with his own stuff, and they need to be depicted on screen more often, because, like, you know, you're relying too much on these other people that he's just as smart as. And, like, I like it when people don't forget about Spider-Man being intelligent. He doesn't have to rely, unless it's absolutely necessary, that he needs to rely on someone who's even smarter than him, like Reed Richards or Tony Stark. He can pretty much come up with certain, you know, ways of figuring out to combat his foes. Like you've seen a lot in, like, the Marvel Spider-Man video game, for example. Like there's certain collectibles that you get that, you know, he says to you, you know, when he's, you know, talking about, oh, I use this, like a piece of a lens from Mysterio's helmet. I remember him talking about how, like, no, it wasn't that. Well, that, but I can't remember exactly what he figured out. I think he used that to, like, yeah, a certain part of Mysterio's helmet he utilized in his own repertoire for his eye lens on his mask, where he can avoid any Mysterio illusions, because he got his own piece of technology in a fight with them. So he uses his, you know, his enemy's weapons against them and making it part of his own arsenal, beefing up his skill. And, you know, that's why I wanted to see, like, a comic called The Experienced Spider-Man, based off something like, I'm pretty sure that's the Gamerverse comics based off the Marvel Spider-Man video game. But I want to see, like, a Experienced Spider-Man, because I mentioned in my walkthrough of that game, it's like I want to, because he's on the phone with MJ, and he's just, like, moving around the city without even paying attention, because he's been around so many he's been around this city for a long time as Spider-Man. He's been doing it for so long, he can pretty much do this blindfolded if he really wanted to, because it's like, and or at least certain scenes when it's like there's like a fire or something like that on at a cop car or something like that in the beginning of the game, and he just, like, you know, I think he used a manhole cover, strikes at, like, a fire hydrant, and then, like, shoots off water, and it's like, you know, cools down the fire. I might be thinking of, like, a different scene, but something like that happened in the game, where it's like, yeah, it's like he knows this. He's not a rookie anymore. He's been at this, like, a good almost 10 years pretty much in this game. So he's like, you know, he knows his way. He like that's what I would like to see. Like, you know, Spider-Man knows this. So when, like, another example, when he used, like, a piece of fabric from the Shocker to help, you know, upgrade his suit to handle his vibrational attacks, so it won't be dangerous if Shocker managed to get hit, kind of situation. It's just like, you know, he is a smart character. And I always love when that is represented properly. And I mean, there's certain spots when he's like Spectacular Spider-Man, he's gonna be a young kid. More often than not, anytime we do like a new TV show, with a few rare exceptions, he's always depicted like as like a high school kid, probably in his freshman or sophomore year. but like maybe the 90s TV show and the MTV Spider-Man show, he's in college, so he's a little older, so he's well versed in a lot of these things. He's not. Uh, uh, he might get the wool pull over his eyes here and there, but for the larger part, he's smart. He's not played like a fool. Like he's not a rookie. Not like unlike Miles Morales or like Kamala Khan, who's fairly new to the superhero game. They've been around for a good minute, but they still relatively new. So they are the ones that should be depicted in as being a little bit gullible when dealing with certain villains because they haven't been at it as long as he has. Or Captain America or Iron Man because they've been doing this for a while. They know the tropes. But yeah, I mean, I love Spider-Man. It's like my all-time favorite hero. I respect the character so much, especially when a writer does him justice. Because what I do not like is when they, like I said, like forget that he's intelligent, or they forget he cracks jokes, or like they make him like too hardcore, and it's like this is not like a dark interpretation like a what if or whatever like that. It's like you can have your drama, but just like the MCU, there's like a right balance between the two. You don't put it too light or too dark. There's like a sweet spot, and a lot of writers manage to write that line very well. And it's just that my take on this subject. There's every once in a while there's certain writers in Spider-Man comics that veer off the path one way or the other. It all depends on the subject matter. I'm still reading a lot of Spider-Man comics online. Like I want to buy comics, but it's like the budget for that is reckless. But yeah, I mean. There's certain Spider-Man comics that I do recommend. It's not as like specific like Batman. Batman has like a very acknowledgeable or a very like well versed particular one shot solo particular comic books that is out of continuity, but is very, very well liked. But it's certain Spider-Man ones is like that come to mind, that maybe a couple of like guilty pleasures of mine that's by and large not well liked by others. Like there's the clone conspiracy. You already gotta be well versed about, because Spider-Man and clones, not a lot of people like that. I am annoyed by that every once in a while, but the clone conspiracy is pretty much like dealing with that again. But I don't want to spoil anything. If you're familiar with Spider-Man and the clones, I do back in like in the day, like in late 90s, early 2000s. I'm pretty sure it was the 90s when he's first dealing with like clones by one of his villains, the Jackal. But the Clone Conspiracy comic book run, I still kind of like. I like arc when he was running his own company after a whole ordeal with like Dr. Octopus. Long story, but that's if you can look it up if you want to. He had like his own Parker Industries. I thought it was appealing because I thought it was a nice upgrade from just being like a photographer for such a long time. Other people preferred him if he wants to grow out of the whole photography situation. He's smart. Currently right now he's a teacher at a college, which I think is fine too, because he's smart. He do either or, but I figure it'd be a whole lot easier if he ran his own company, so that way he doesn't have an excuse, doesn't have to make excuses about dipping out. If he needs to go save the city, he's the boss. He can pretty much do whatever the heck he wants. But being a teacher, it's a little bit harder to make an excuse to dip out a middle of class to go save the city. But at this juncture, I don't think he needs to be like a photographer anymore. He's currently in main continuity right now. He's at an age where he's like kind of grown out of that situation. He required that when he was like within high school or coming out of high school and he needs a job in his, like, first year in college, just to help pay for certain books or whatever like that, that was like a fit for him. But we're growing out of that point, aside from certain TV shows that still depict that particular stage in his life. But in current comic book standards, he's out of that role. But in the movies, in the MCU, I'm pretty sure they will fit that in, because, spoiler alert, J. Jonah Jameson, played by J.K. Simmons, just like in the Tobey Maguire movies, is back, part of this multiverse thing that's obviously coming up. Can't wait for that. You got Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield going to be in the same movie. So excited. Oh my God, I cannot wait. I'm actually going, the first time I'm going back to the movie theaters, it's going to be for that movie that's coming out this December, and I cannot wait for that. I don't know if it, no, I think the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness is going to be in next year. I'm pretty sure early next year. I'm definitely going to be in the theaters for that. Theaters are going to be coming back, at least slowly but surely, but by the time I feel safe going back, it's probably going to be for the Spider-Man movie. But yeah, I wish there was more Spider-Man comics I can recommend. There's just none that sticks out in particular. There's just so much. Like, Spider-Man's been around. He's like the icon from Marvel, just like Batman's. Well, Superman technically, but Batman rakes in the dough, so he's technically the mascot for DC. But besides Clone Conspiracy and the Parker Industry arc, it's impressive runs, but like none that sticks out. There's Ultimate Spider-Man. You can read that. That's fine. And that's a great run. It's pretty much the Ultimate Universe version of Spider-Man, but still good comic book run if you want to get into Spider-Man. God, there's titles that it does not stick to mind. Matter of fact, let me quickly look it up. I wish I was more prepared for this, but let's see here. All right. Spider-Man: The Clone Saga, and just the real Clone Saga. That's a little bit more better. The original Clone Saga kind of sucked and is boring, but the real Spider-Man, the real Clone Saga, is much better. If you want to find out about the Clone Saga, I highly suggest you read that. If you're intrigued by the original Clone Saga, go ahead and check it out. The Spider-Man when he first meets Venom, that's a great run. The Spider-Man: The Death of Gwen Stacy, that's an incredible comic book. I definitely got that. Spider-Man Noir is kind of like the another alternate universe version of Spider-Man, but it's pretty solid too. I love that. If you've seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, it's pretty much the Spider-Man Noir 1940s version of him. What else? What else? Spider-Man versus Wolverine. There's Kevin Smith's Spider-Man and Black Cat. Maximum Carnage, definitely worth a read. I mentioned the origin of the Ultimate Spider-Man comic run. Spider-Man and Venom versus Carnage. Miles Morales meets Peter Parker. That's an incredible comic to read. I haven't really personally enjoyed it, but it's still pretty decent. But Spider-Man Spider Island is solid for a lot of people. Ultimate Spider-Man versus the X-Men. So sick, because I had these written down. Ultimate Spider-Man Origin of Ultimate Venom. And then there's a Spider-Verse comic book run, which is kind of like what the movie was based off of, but I'm trying to find the title. Spider-Man One More Day, a lot of people like. Where is it? Where's that other one? Spider-Man Revenge of the Sinister Six. Spider-Man 2099, another decent one, which is like a Spider-Man of the future. What is that title? Oh, there you go. Yeah, Spider-Verse. This is the title, Spider-Verse. Yeah. So yeah, those are like what I recommended are solid Spider-Man comic books that you can dive into. If you're interested in reading Spider-Man comic books, those in particular, you can easily dive in any one of those. So yeah, I read a lot of those, but like I engaged in any Spider-Man comic book, almost any Spider-Man comic book, except for like the What If stuff. I'm not a fan of What If. I'm not even sure if you're gonna watch any of the What If TV shows, to be honest with you. It's just that I don't like shows that's so dark and depressing. We got enough going on in life to last a lifetime. I don't need to pile on what if dark scenarios of certain superheroes. I'm not into that. People are ecstatic for that stuff. I'm not. I'm just gotta be completely honest with you. But yeah, Spider-Man, amazing character. No pun intended. Well, pun intended. He's spectacular. He's amazing. He's ultimate. He's sensational. Yeah, all the adjectives. It's just like definitely a lot of video games I highly recommend. Marvel's Spider-Man PS4, which is also on the PS5 if you have that at this point, which is pretty much hard to get. I'm still waiting for the opportunity to get that system and the Xbox Series S. Spider-Man, the Ultimate Spider-Man video game, I played it on the GameCube back in the day. That was fun. Like I mentioned this on my video about my favorite video games. A lot of the Spider-Man games are on that list if you want to check out that video. And then of course I mentioned the Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions as well. But yeah, please let me know in the comments below about is there a favorite Spider-Man comic book that you enjoyed? Why you love Spider-Man so much? Is there a favorite Spider-Man video game that you enjoyed playing growing up? But yeah, it's he's amazing. Like I will always have, because there's tons of Spider-Man comic books I still have like in my closet store somewhere. Like the amazing. Oh, Spider-Man, if you look it up, I doubt you can get it or buy it, but look up the very first Amazing Fantasy Spider-Man comic book and read it. That is a solid one, so you can know the origin. If you haven't read it specifically, even though you probably know it, if you actually read it, it's pretty good to the original first comic, issue 1 of Spider-Man Amazing Fantasy. That is pretty good. And I will see you all soon for the next in-depth discussion on camera videos. So please, once again, leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff to Talkative Carl on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. And I will see you all soon. Take care, and I love you all 3000.